Pleased to welcome this morning Republican Congressman Morgan Luttrell, representing the 8th Congressional District. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Does it feel okay now? Does it feel normal to be called congressman, or is it still sinking in?
No, absolutely not. It is very strange still. Just never had that ambition, never how I was raised. It just never thought this would be where I would be sitting today.
So how did it come to this point? What made you decide that you needed to run for office?
Congressman Brady announced his retirement.
Yeah.
And I grew up in my district. It's my hometown.
So you've all known, Kevin's been there for 25 years.
Yes, sir. He's been my congressman for 25 years. Family and friends came to me in the district, asked, said, hey, what do you think? Would you consider this? Because we either have land, family in every county.
Right.
And after a lot of prayer, a lot of family meetings, and a lot of gatherings, we decided to make a run at it, and we won.
So now, 8th Congressional District has quite the reputation, in part because of the congressman who you are replacing for 25 years, Congressman Kevin Brady, who was the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee for a while, just really well known. What is the challenge in taking over where he left off, and what kind of advice has he given you as a result?
He's been on my shoulder. I reach out to him. He's a great mentor. Yeah. What a wonderful man. And it needs to be said that he was, from what people have told me, the most well-liked member in Congress, either side of the aisle. People just loved him to death.
Yeah.
I will always say I'm never going to try to fill his shoes, just simply widen the road that he paved for us. From Mr. Fields to Mr. Brady to myself, which I had the opportunity to meet all three. Well, three of us got together at one time. We got three generations of Texas State representation, which was amazing.
Yeah.
He has so much institutional knowledge of how the D.C. works. So I talked to him 2 days ago and not only just checking on him, say, hey, you just retired from a career in this, how you holding up? Right. But also asking questions on, hey, can you provide me a lane here? Just give me maybe a perspective that I'm not seeing. So he has such a great understanding of the representation of District 8, and I learned so much from that I necessarily couldn't see initially.
And the district voted for you. It wasn't exactly what you call a squeaker. I mean, in terms of they said, hey, you're the guy. Now you're in Congress. What are your committees that you're on, and why are those the ones that you've chosen?
So I'm on 3 committees and 6 subcommittees. So we're on House Armed Services.
That makes sense for your background.
It does. So when we met with the steering committee in Washington, D.C. is who places the members in their committee assignments. And we really campaigned for House Armed Services, given my background in the military. And on that committee, we have 2 subcommittees, cyber, and we're on special operations and intelligence, which come from Naval Special Warfare. We're on the Homeland Security Committee. We're border and cyber as well. So 2 cyber subcommittees where I really fought for cyber. And on the border subcommittee, where I'm a vice chairman, actually. Okay. It represents the district very well.
Right.
Yep. And then I fought for a 3rd committee, Veterans Affairs. Near and dear my heart.
Right. And so, for those who don't know, I mean, you were a part of your military experience. You were one of the elite. That's probably an understatement, but that's true. Correct?
Well, it's gracious of you to say that, but yeah, I was in the SEAL teams my entire naval career, so Naval Special Warfare. It's definitely one of the Tier 1 communities.
Sure. Well, I'm an Army brat, 30-year Army dad who, that's all I know. So sorry you went Navy, but that's okay. That's a problem.
I figured that was coming.
You knew that was coming.
Oh, yeah. Every time I lay eyes on Wesley Hunt, it's the Army-Navy thing.
Well, I told him my first words I ever learned were "Go Army, beat Navy."
I'm in passing, or if I close out a text message or an email to Wesley Hunt, it's "Go Navy, beat Army." So it's
well, you guys are good. You in the same area doing some of the same stuff. Let's talk a little bit about what's been happening here recently. The United States is not actively taking part in a war in Ukraine, but clearly is providing support. Last week, President Biden went there, spent some time there on the 1-year anniversary. You know what war is like. You know what happens in cases of armed conflict. Your background lets you know what happens there. I ask your thoughts about what our continued involvement should or should not be as far as Ukraine is concerned.
It's very challenging. And asking me to be a member now and getting the briefings and the hearings and classified briefings on what's happening over in Ukraine. And after fighting 2 wars, I'll never want to put my sons in war. I don't want the Americans to go forward and say, hey, look, now we're active, we're in it. Support is another thing. And I would have not voted to send as much as we have, because I want more guardrails on the amount of money that we're spending given the issues that we're having in our country alone. Now, support, yes. Do they need it? Yes. The atrocities, and I had a town hall last night where I was trying to explain to somebody, like, hey, I've seen the atrocities of war, and when a bully such as Russia is taking advantage of Ukraine, the United States, whether or not we like it or not, we're the big brother, and it's in our DNA, if you will, to protect those that need protecting, whether or not it's abroad. And we have to protect our citizens here. Don't get me wrong. Sure. I'm very laser focused on that. Right. But we can't let Russia take Ukraine. It's strategically just a huge mistake.
So, no, Congressman McCall was over there about the same time that President Biden was there, asking for he wanted the administration to do even more.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily in that category. I
have to see what that looks like.
Okay.
You know, if we overextend ourselves, there's so many different narratives going on in the world today. We can't deplete our oil reserves. We can't deplete our defensive postures. We can't deplete our way of life here in case it comes to our shores or we're pulled east. Right. It's just a bad mistake.
Yeah. So some of the president's critics also argue that, hey, you know, it's okay, Ukraine, we need that, but we need to do more on our southern border. The crisis is there. There's a challenge there. It's ongoing. Your thoughts about what's being done and what Congress should do? Because there clearly has been room for some sort of compromise in Congress, but there hasn't been one. There's bomb throwing on both sides. There's a lot of accusations. You know, way back when they had the Gang of Eight who came together and they actually had a plan, and it was nixed at the last minute. And former House Speaker Boehner is not very happy about that because he had a deal and he blames Ted Cruz for that not happening. But that's another whole story. But what are your thoughts about what's going on the southern border?
We've been to the border, and we're leaving for the border in the morning. We're heading out to El Paso, and then in 2 weeks after that, we're going back down to McAllen. So it's there. It lives. It breathes. It exists. It is a catastrophe. There is a crisis, and it's unfortunate that we feel that pressure, especially here in our district. This is the landing zone for a lot of that rush. I mean, even the fentanyl problem is in Montgomery County. It's huge in Harris County, and that's coming through our southern borders. We have the ability to, with the majority in the Republican Party, is to apply pressure right now because we don't have the Senate, we don't have the White House. So, but what we do is we keep moving the needle. We keep applying those pressures like, hey, this is what we need to do. There's legislation in place to secure that border already. It's just not being enforced by the Secretary of Homeland Security, which I've sent letters to him. I've reached out to him. You need to tell me why this is happening.
So that's where the pressure's coming from the popular. You want to make sure that you have the images are there so that the voters know.
Yeah, we want our bases in the American public to know, like, hey, look, we're taking this seriously. We are working as hard as we can. We're moving legislation out of the Homeland Committee. And members across the southern borders are saying, hey, we are dying down here.
You're optimistic that something can get done? I mean, this is such a political football.
It's a shame that it is a political football. Yeah. It shouldn't be that way. These are the national security and the livelihood of our citizens. Do I think something can be done? I think it's going to take a Republican president coming in and say, we're done. Lock it down. Okay. And then being able to enforce the laws that are in place. Okay. And so we don't have to pass new legislation. We just have to get the administration to say, okay, hey, look, we're going to really get behind the laws here and start putting a tourniquet on this bleed.
Well, you say a new Republican president, we'll talk about that. Yeah. We're going to talk more with Congressman Morgan Luttrell. Congressman Morgan Luttrell. I'll just say that again. So
I appreciate that. Yes.
We're going to talk about how this 118th Congress is getting off to a start, and a history-making start, really, and the challenge of electing a speaker, and what he thinks the agenda should be as his party is in the driver's seat. We'll talk more about that when Houston Newsmakers continues after the break.
Solutions to your water bill problems. More than $22,000 refunded. Nearly a dozen accounts cleared. We know hundreds of you still need help. We continue the fight Monday morning.
I just feel stuck. Like I can't do anything. There's nowhere to go. Sometimes I feel like no one cares.
Hey, what's going on?
Reaching out to listen, catch up, or just be there can help someone more than you know. We all need supportive people and positive outlets in our lives, so we don't have to face hard times alone. Find out more about yourself and what you can turn to. Visit turntosupportstx.org.
You ain't
This is Ford Truck Month, Texas. Time to get up and get into Ford F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 46 years straight, including Ford F-150 and the all-new Ford Super Duty. Or check out Ford Maverick and Ford Ranger. So get into Ford Truck Month, Texas, and see what a built Ford Tough truck can do for you. There's a great selection in stock. Drive a new Ford F-150 today with 0%, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days plus complimentary maintenance. See your best in Texas Ford dealer.
Leveled concrete, don't settle when it sinks, trust leveled concrete. We give driveways the lift they need, pools, walkways, and patios. We level those to the best warranty in the industry. Commercial, residential, when concrete is sinking, we make it level. Leveled concrete, don't settle when it sinks, trust leveled concrete. Leveledconcrete.com.
This week on the Evidence Room.
Did you kill Laura Smither?
No, I didn't. She stopped these killings. I firmly believe more young girls would be dead had Sandra not jumped from that pickup truck.
Streaming exclusively on KPRC 2+.
Well, we got a chance to watch history last month as the House took a record number of votes in this modern era before electing Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker. It could be taken a couple of ways. Either that Republicans had a tough time getting their act together with the caucus is so divided, or the other side is, as Congressman Hunt said last week, hey, this is the way democracy works. You saw the sausage being made. It is good to be able to see it happening like that. Where do you stand on the way you start out?
Wesley articulated that very well.
Yeah.
And being on the House floor and watching that unfold in person, I don't think it was as dramatic as it was on the news until we got towards the later votes, like 13, 14, 15, then it started to heat up a little bit. And if you haven't seen bad lip reading, I highly recommend that. It take a lot from that. You know, that's the functionality of our party. We have brilliant leaders, all 222 of us, you know, and every one of them are very devoted to their districts. And I like to say it that way. Same for me. I voted for McCarthy from start to finish, and there's reasons that I did that. And it was because the rules package that we passed early on in November was sound. We voted that out unanimously. We voted in the leadership from McCarthy all the way down, and I stuck to my guns. And for me, Morgan only, I believed in Kevin, and I think he's doing a fantastic job now because the rules package that we put in place, how the House floor itself was to be governed, was very conservative. We brought back a lot of what we needed as far as moving legislation. No more omnibus bill landing on your desk the day of. You know, we have 72 hours now. You know, no more proxy voting. Excuse me. And you know, kind of the list goes on and on. You know, and the only thing that actually changed from November to the Saturday we swore in was the motion to vacate from 5 to 1. That was the only thing that changed. So for me, when we came out of caucus unanimous, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
That's what I'm doing.
You have a party that is like the Democrats. Democrats have progressives to the left, and you have far right to the right, far right to the right. So where do you fit in? Are you in the category of a Gohmert, Green, Getz, or more like McCall, Crenshaw kind of Republican? And they are definitely different.
We're all different. We're all different. I think for me, it's like far right, and this is where I kind of get for you. I've been accused of being a rhino, but then I've also been accused of being, hey, you're the far rightest guy we know.
But that's a good thing. If you're being accused of both things, that's why, because I'm a hardcore independent. I tick off both Republicans and Democrats. I got it, and that's a good thing.
I think I live on a scale.
Okay.
You know, because now the question I usually get is like, how red are you, or how blue are you? Are you purple? Are you kind of fading? And there's issues that I'm about as far right red as you can get. And then there's also issues that I understand out of 330 million people that we got to come together and figure this out. You know, so I don't take a hard line. If the Democrats voting for that, I'm not voting for it. That's not my leadership style.
Right.
You know, and it's just we have so many different perspectives and personalities in our country, and the representation, you know, that's what they're there for. So I have to sit across the table from my Democratic colleagues or even my Republican colleagues and listen. I hear them out, you know, and say, that makes sense.
So what's your personal thing? What is your goal in terms of how you hope to change some of that divisive culture? Because obviously new blood can help in that regard sometimes, depending on what kind of attitude you have as you go in and have these conversations.
Yeah, what I know about my freshman class so far is we're up there to do just that. And For me, I really lean on my experiences in the military and time at war and dealing with, you know, just either other branches of service or other nations and their military. And, you know, yelling and screaming and going in and hard no, hey, look, we're not going that way. That tactic is terrible. We're not using that. Or is it 70% sound and we need to go with that? Just in, you know, humility and integrity and the knowing that the most important thing for us is our country. You know, and I think a lot of the veterans up there see it that way, and we understand. But I represent my base, right, 100%. And my first vote is for my base. So if it's something that, hey, look, my base is not for this, I'm sorry, I'm out. I'm a hard no or I'm a yes, however that plays out.
Got it.
But otherwise, it's okay. Hey, look, right now, government is Washington D.C. is the most hated place in the country, right? And it's a shame it's that way. It's uncomfortable for me because I was just a country boy from Willis, you know, and now I'm a congressman, and people, you know, some of them associate me with that, and I'm trying to fix the problem.
Well, we're going to help you as much as we can by giving you opportunities to come on this program whenever you want to.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Got that. We're going to have more in our conversation on Houston Newsmakers Extra. You can go and find that on the Newsmakers page. Go continue our conversation right now. But also, we're going to start, by the way, thank you for coming on.
Sir, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We're going to continue